like how I have that camera back there too, or the mirror back there too.
You said what?
You like how I have that mirror back there too.
Yeah, so you can kind of see yourself.
Yeah, you can see yourself. You can see if the camera's still recording.
Except it's a little bit. Oh, there we go.
Oh shit! Hold on, wait 1 second here. Jesus.
All right. Check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Check.
Jesus.
1, 2. Why does the sound on this keep going in and out?
Give me just 1 second. Now, once I get this one, I'll get that going. I just want to make sure that I got this camera on. You can see it kind of like below there. Hold on. You see the fucking thing over there? That's actually kind of centered. Not terrible. They didn't let me see it a little bit more.
I'm trying to see. It's kind of hard to see with that pole right in the middle of it. It's like,
You did me go from the side.
yeah. Okay, that's good. Yeah, that's good.
All right. Booyah. Okay. You said this was going in and out?
Get out here right now.
Okay.
That's just my headphones. They're messing up.
Check. Can you hear it any better now?
Nope. Can you?
I can, yeah.
Huh?
I can.
You can?
Yeah, you can't. Can you hear me talking at all? You can't hear that?
No, it's not coming. Is that my headphones? Maybe. They were just working though. I have no problems with them. Let me see. Hold on. Wait. Maybe I turned it down on this the wrong way. Hold on. Let me see now. All right, got it. I tried to turn them up and hit the wrong way.
Okay,
But it did. But it did go out. But it went out before that.
Okay.
Yeah, it went out before that. But we good. It's on.
Yeah, we back at it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So before the freaking quick commercial break, there, one of the things we were discussing was how we feel like we did in that first half, and I guess for the people that haven't been watching or just now.
We're not recording right now, are you?
What?
It's not recording.
Oh, sorry. Well, it's recording all this, but yeah. Hold on. Check.
Check.
Yeah, check. Yeah, we're good.
Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2.
Yeah, because if anything, it's easy to turn up the volume too in post.
Cool.
Yeah, but we were talking last about how we felt that the first couple weeks had went and things like that, and we wanted to see if we feel like we've done as much as we could or if there's things we could have done better. And so, yeah, some of the stuff that we had talked about before the break was just if we felt like we were, hitting the same marks or hitting like what we thought was important. And so, personally, I feel like, at least for me, that like some of the stuff had gone under the wayside. And yeah, I guess in my mind, it sucks because part of it is like, it'd be nice to actually be getting more stuff done, but then I guess it's like, well, are we getting stuff done in other words it's important for it? And I was like, in my head, I guess it's like, I feel like we're not doing the get right or anything else. It's like the media company angle, which would be like the political side of things. I feel like we've kind of let the ball drop on that. And then I feel like just like content wise, it's like, the podcast ball dropped, YouTube videos ball dropped, Instagram posts and content ball dropped. I guess I'm trying to see in my mind like somewhere where we did well, or like in your mind, where did we do well anyway?
Yeah. So I would say better than before we got here, but well, no. So, I mean, I'm not gonna say like, oh, nothing, like we didn't improve in any way at all. I wouldn't agree with that. I think we definitely, because the get right is an all encompassing thing, of what I had just said before was it's what I say, it's the what I say, it was like the plan, or I can't remember how I worded it. I think I said it was the process of becoming the man that you always envisioned yourself as. Mm-hmm. I think that's what I said it was, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that
it's
sounds right.
the media, and it's all encompassing. So I won't say we just completely didn't get any improvements in anything, um, but would I say that we like, oh, one thing that we got completely settled and handled? No, not at all.
Yeah.
There's nothing in particular. Like I say, unless, I mean, I don't know, maybe did you do at least your what you talked about your book Dune? I know you were talking about you were on and meditations and stuff. I don't know if maybe you got that part in it. At the I'm saying at the bare minimum of like,
Yeah.
you know.
I'd say that yeah, it's like I'm still middle of the way through Dune.
Hold on
I,
a second.
yeah, it's like I'm still middle of the.
Let's just hold it. Pass
But
it.
well, I mean, it's not bad like that. I would say that yeah, as far as Dune goes, I'm like over halfway through that. I'm finishing up right now where the first movie ends, but yeah, it's like Dune. I've kind of fallen behind on just because it's like every night. Usually, I would listen to that audiobook when I'm walking the dog, or I'd listen to it sometime in the morning. But it's just I've been kind of feeling like I've been playing catch up with just whether it be phone calls that I had missed throughout the day before, or just whatever the case is. When I'm walking, it's like seems like an afterthought to be listening to Dune, which sucks because it's like I do enjoy that book, but I just feel like so overwhelmed with so many other aspects of like what's going on in my life that it's like I mentioned to Eli the other day. It was like when Sunday football was on, I was like, yeah, I wish I could watch Sunday football and like enjoy it, but like I feel like my back's like up against the wall to the point where I can't really like enjoy this simple pleasures life has just because and I know it's a bad thing to say, but it's like I think I'm thinking in too big of terms of just like um, you know, grandiose like concepts or just like it's yeah. I feel like I guess I'm just getting kind of like lost in existentialism where it's like I'm like, is this important? Is anything important? Should I be upset that I feel like I'm failing? Am I failing? Do I feel like I could do more? Yes. Is there maybe like a reason that I'm not doing as much, and like hopefully that reason will show itself soon because yeah, at this point I just almost feel like I'm not just a failure on the Dune front or like even on the meditation side of things. It's like with meditation, I it's like usually I would be journaling every day, and it's like I still will find time just to like sit still and not be on my phone and not like have any outside distractions and just sit with my thoughts. But yeah, I'd say that usually that time would be during I'd usually do that during meditation or I know I heard it, but yeah, but yeah, it's like usually I would find time to do that during meditation, but in these cases I don't really find that time just because it's yeah, I know it's important to make time for it, but usually I guess in my mind too, like part of the meditation, it's similar to podcasting, is in meditation you take the time to write out your thoughts and views and feelings, opinions, doubts, all that. You take the time to kind of like write that down, journal it, and you kind of look at it, and then that helps you realize the kind of person you are because it's day in and day out. You can see these things either becoming better or getting worse. And in this case, it's like with the podcast, it's like that's why I thought it was so important, just because it's almost like in a way it's like replacing the daily need to journal. We're like doing like a collective online journal, and so yeah, it's even though I've been journaling in a written format, I was trying to do it in a spoken format. I think that's also better in a way to some degree because anything that I write in my journal, I'm fine with. Like if the whole world found my journal, it's like that's fine. I have nothing to hide in there or anywhere where it's like if I can't be honest with myself or with people in general, then it's like I just feel like I'm not really truly like myself or I'm not my own person if I feel like external pressures to be dishonest with people. So it's like if people found any of my journals, it's like I don't care. And it's like the same thing with speaking it out. I'm like I'm fine if people want to listen to it and want to hear my thoughts coming from the deep in my consciousness, but if they don't or if people don't, that's fine too. But at the end of the day, it's like I'm not afraid to share it. I guess where I'm afraid is like just not either doing that or just like doing it. It's like where I'll notice like 2 or 3 days in a row if I'm like repeating myself in my journal. It's like, oh, I know that I need to be better because for the last 3 days I've said the same exact thing in my journal, and so by day 4 I do it. And in this case with the podcast, I feel like we did 3 or 4 days in a row, and then it's like reality starts to set in of like, okay, now we're just repeating ourselves. What are we gonna do to fix it? And instead of I think fixing it, we just went the route of let's just not do the podcast because it's easier to stick our hands in or heads in the dirt than it is to like look at that, I guess. But what are your thoughts on it, I guess?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's probably one of the things. I'm definitely more private in that sense. Like I would never let people see my journal, or yeah, I would never let people just see my journal, or just get that personal with people and stuff. Nah. I so yeah, that's kind of interesting. I didn't realize that you would be that like open to, and that makes more sense with the podcast. I'm not really. I have like if I'm gonna talk about something, I want to be honest about it. But there's certain things that I just won't talk about it because I know I'm not willing to really go into the depths of that. So I'm just not gonna bring it up because I don't want to BS people either. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not. Yeah, I guess I'm more protective of like private personal thoughts and stuff. If anything, the way that I've journaled in life, which is why I was something that I really want to get back into was working on scripts, is because I can remember in school, like when stress and stuff hit, that was when I wrote, because when stuff bothered me, I felt like it was more clear when I wrote it in a script and when I made it into a story. Like my thoughts kind of, I could illustrate and explain things a lot better that way than just, then when I would speak it to people and stuff, you know, it could be, it can be a little abrasive and too direct, and a lot of the nuance gets lost in it. But yeah, no, that's interesting to me. I wouldn't let people read a journal. For me, like I do actually journal some of the stuff and some of those thoughts, but what's in the podcast to me is more about the actions and things that are going on and things that have been done, and less I'll get personal at moments and stuff and when I feel like it's necessary, but I definitely keep a lot of my private thoughts and, you know, personal life and things that I'm dealing with more secret. Just close friends know, family knows,
Yeah.
yeah, people like that.
And I guess my a follow-up question to that would be, why exactly do you feel the need, or like, I guess what makes you feel like you can't be honest with the world, I guess, because in a way, at least in my mind, if you can't be honest with everyone, then are you truly honest with anyone?
So I won't say fully like dishonest. It's just like I said, if I'm gonna speak on something, I'll speak on it in an honest way and I'll be completely transparent in it. But otherwise, I'm just not gonna speak on it, and I'm just gonna keep that away. You know what I mean? Like I'm not, and I mean that's just part of that is yeah. I don't. The world is crazy. I don't need everybody giving an opinion on my business. I don't need everybody knowing every thought that I have, and that's just me. That's just how I am. I don't, and I mean maybe it is just the way, you know, maybe I've been honest and people, you know, have reacted and I pulled back, or I guess, I mean, I have definitely lost friends and people from being too honest, so I don't know, maybe that's it. I'm not trying to blame anybody or anything. I never really thought about it. It could just be how I was raised. Like I said, I never thought about it, but no, I wouldn't. It's not that I'm not being dishonest. It's just there's a lot of, I keep privacy. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that I'm not just, people don't need to get that deep in my business. But if I feel, maybe as I do it more and more, maybe as I get more comfortable, I might start opening more and more and more into my life. But in the beginning, nah, I keep it, that's just, I wouldn't, like I said, it's not being dishonest. It's just there's certain things I'm not going to let people know and get into until I feel like I'm ready to open that up to people.
Yeah, and I guess a follow-up question I would have for that is, as like a public figure in this case, like where it's like we're trying to do this media company or just to get right in general, where we're kind of putting ourselves on the public stage, or we're putting ourselves out there open to criticism, open to praise, open to everything, because in a way it's like, do you feel like people, I guess in my mind, do you not worry that people might not want to, you know, if people feel like there's stuff you are hiding from them, Do you feel like people are going to want to, like, ultimately, do you feel like people will connect with you in a way? Because ultimately, I think part of the reason people like Kanye West or people like Elon Musk or even people just like Danny Duncan, people that are just, fresh and fit, all these people who I feel like have gained audiences in whatever their field is, I feel like the reason they have done so is because their authenticity. And I think that it's because of their lack of wanting to keep stuff hidden, where it's like they almost, in my mind, I feel like the reason, it's not like you're being dishonest, and I didn't mean to imply that for anyone that's watching, that's not what I meant, but, and I'm sorry if it came off that way, but I guess what I meant was like, do you not feel like being open, like it almost shows that you're not like afraid of any criticism, or I guess that's a weird way to put it, but it's like being open in a way, it's like, it's almost like by hiding stuff, it's like you're giving, it's like there's a weakness behind this shield, and it's like if people find out what that's behind that shield, it's like then they can attack you and criticize you to a point where it's like you, it's like a make or break thing, and in that case it's like if you're hiding stuff that you don't want to talk about, then it's like it could break you in a way, because it's like now these people know something, it's like a liability almost, where it's like that's your weakness. If you have superpowers, that would be your weakness, I guess, in my mind, where it's like, and yeah, it's not that you're being dishonest, but it's like if you feel like there's things you can't talk about publicly, have you really come to terms with them, or have you really come to accept whatever it is deep down inside if you can't talk about it publicly, I guess would be my question.
Yeah. That's interesting because yeah, like coming to terms with it is a thing. So you do have to come to terms with it yourself. So maybe that is part of the reason why I just wouldn't speak on it. But it's not that I never will or never would, or like that I'm complete, like I'm not gonna be open to people and stuff. But I would say just getting started, it's a process for me. So I wouldn't just do it right off bat, and it's seeing okay, you know what, I can speak more, you know what, I can get more into detail on this, you know what, I'm I'm willing to speak on this and open this up to other people. And not to go all cliche with people or anything, but we talk about uh mental health for black men, and being, open and sharing those things and stuff. It's not normal for us. Like, we don't like it. You don't reveal certain things because you cannot show that there might be weakness. And I get what you're saying, how it could almost be a weakness by not showing it, but that's why I said, if I'm gonna show it, I'm gonna be honest and be 100% transparent. Otherwise, I'm staying away from it, period. Right? So that's, yeah, like it's weird to learn how to open up and to figure out where you want to, how much, uh, how much emotion do you show in public? How much do you show you care? Like, that's a real question. And like, when they talk about black men sharing and mental health and stuff like that, that's, and you know how I am. I'm not big on all the woke things and all the sappy and all that type of stuff. But that is a legitimate thing that I noticed, and me and my friends have talked about. It's like how it was crazy for us that we're some of the only ones that had people that we could actually talk to about things that really bothered us.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, we're just not used to it's kind of, it's taboo. You don't really talk about stuff like that. And then when you do, people will fake like they care, but then really they're just like weak. They judging and all that stuff. So you just tend to keep it hidden and share it only with the people that you really trust.
Well, what makes you think that they're being fake?
By what they'll say to your face, and then kind of how they may treat you later, or what they may say later, or you'll get two different types of reactions from people. So,
yeah, and I guess the people, as far as like the people that feel fake, or the people that feel like their response is in some way disingenuous, do you feel like those people are the norm in your life, or do you feel like most people? Because I'm just thinking like out loud here. It's like, and I know I'm a white guy, so it's like, I guess my opinion might be null and void in this context, but still, I'm like, do you feel like those people were if they're fake behind your back, were they your friends to begin with? In which case, they're I have
pretty
to,
much
yeah, exactly.
You're pretty
And-
much answering that yourself. No,
Exactly.
they weren't. And I think again, it's not so much that like I just completely don't want to reveal anything. It's attacked to it, if that makes sense. Like you, you know, because if you've done it for the wrong people before and you see how that goes, you don't want to just keep doing that again. You know, you don't want to make the same mistake twice. So it's more so like, you know, being careful with how, being careful with when, you know, figuring out, okay, this is okay to do. You know what I mean? So it's not like, I just completely won't show that or reveal that. It's just figuring out when and the how and when you want to. And does that make sense?
Yeah, it
What I'm
does.
saying?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Okay.
It does, and yeah, I guess, and the reason I ask these questions is, it's just like it all kind of falls into the whole idea of like, you know, the get right itself. Like, what is the get right? What is, you know, is this something that's like worth podcasting, or is this something that's worth the time in general? Like, what exactly does it mean to us? And yeah, I guess it's just in my mind, I'm like, you know, I don't expect it to be a situation where everything works out great the first time, but yeah, I guess in my mind, I'm like, it's like, yeah, it's like, I guess it's tough because, yeah, part of me is like, well, what is, like, what don't you feel at peace with talking about? Like, almost, it's like, and I know that, like, obviously you couldn't answer that, but then, yeah, it's like, it's just in my mind, it's like, well, yeah, I guess it's rough because, yeah, it's like, here I am trying to be like, oh, well, to get right, like, yeah, you know, mission report, day 23, you know, where it's like, we tell everyone as if it's like, and as if these are like our final messages to the world, where it's like, you know, end all be all. It's like, you know, this is our last shot, day, you know, at 52, day 60, day like whatever. It's like, you know, basically it's like it's all or nothing on the line. And like in my mind, I'm like, I don't feel like we've really conveyed that intensity, or like that, like in my mind, like what I thought was supposed to be intensity to getting something done. And I guess we could try and go into that a little bit.
So you're saying what is the get right?
Well, yeah, just like, does it feel like there's been this intensity that, yeah, I guess, like, does the get right feel like it's been this 60-day process, like, that I kind of expected it to be, where we're grinding 20-hour days every day?
No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. I think there's a lot of aspects from media to we were supposed to have budgets and be saving up for, you know, for the next step, you know, because 60 days isn't really a long time. You know, we're supposed to be getting prepared for that, you know, being in better shape. The holidays are coming, you know, so there's, you know, we were supposed to be building a whole portfolio, you know, of stuff that we could use to work after it. So I definitely.
Well, I guess, yeah, if you had to sum up to
Yeah.
someone who didn't know, say someone's just joining right now, this is the first part of the get right they've heard, what would you say has been done in the first 30 days as far as like expectations? You said budget was one, getting in shape,
Yeah.
like physical fitness, then
Diet, so health.
diet
So that's health.
/ health. Okay.
Vices.
Vices.
That's
And then,
one.
yeah, expect.
We already have portfolio.
Okay. Portfolio. So portfolio, vices, diet, health,
Skill.
skill.
We were supposed to develop, you know, the useful skills, which you've actually been doing because you're getting into court reporting.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. You've been getting that up.
Yeah.
What else do we have? Skill. We already did the portfolio. Obviously, the media company. That's the obvious one. And I think even with that, exactly, we really gotta break down into, okay, what are our like 2 to 3 main things with the media company that we want to do, and the 2 to 3 main things you want to do using media company for a portfolio, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we should definitely get those, like, and together figure out, you know, like, okay, what do we gotta do? Like, so we'll say the podcast. So we're gonna keep that going. So we'll put that as 100%. We'll just go with the podcast. And it doesn't just have to be this type of get right stuff. We can actually just talk about things. I think.
Yeah, no, this is just like the midway point where it's like,
midway catch up.
Yeah, and I guess in my mind too, it's like even though this is like yeah, it is the get right, but it's like not all the podcasts are gonna be centered around like successes, shortcomings, trials, tribulations. It's like some of this content's supposed to be just like not filler content, but more like lifestyle, more like entertainment, more just like hey, we're just hanging out. But yeah, my concern there was with it's like if you say one sentence to someone, it's really hard to sum up in one sentence who you are or what anything is. Say it's two sentences, okay, well that makes it a little bit easier. Three sentences, a little bit easier. 1 hour of sentences, a lot easier. 60 hours of sentences, you better have your point across in 60 hours. But like that's the point where in my mind it's like 60 hours could have been both like you would know who I am as a person and who Eli is a person, who we are together as people, and all these things where it's like you not only know our opinions on movies and views on maybe certain social situations or political situations, but you'd at least know who we are as people. Because again, one sentence you don't really know someone, two a little, three, and as it builds and builds, and you have this repertoire or this huge catalog of work where you can be like, hey, check out my stuff on this channel. Then people can feel like they're, like, in a way, they know who you are because you have taken the time to upload all your thoughts into some categorical fashion or some sort of like organized fashion where people, even if they might not like what you're saying or they might not agree with every point you say, it's like I think more often than not they'll appreciate the work that you're putting out, and that in its way can attract more people to whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah. Okay. That I actually like that. That makes sense too, and that's I mean that makes sense. That's cool. So definitely with the rest of the podcast, and that kind of keeps it open, where we're just introducing people to ourselves, and then that's a good way too, because like how we talked about moving forward too, because this was supposed to be more like a launch pad, right? Would that be right? Like a springboard to kind of launch us forward to the next steps, whether, I mean, some of it together, some of it separate in our own lives. It just depends on how that goes. But yeah, that's I think I definitely give it that. Now, even if we may not still get 60 hours, but I mean, we can still try to get 60 hours. That just means we got to do 2 in a day, but at least we can get like 30 or something like that.
No, that's fine. Yeah,
but I definitely think that's cool that we and that kind of gives us that gives a podcast like a clear focus on what it is and what we want to do with it. So yeah, no, I'll just say I like that. That's a good sort of explanation.
All right, and then I guess as far as like the other expectation, as far as the other expectations, budget, physical fitness, diet, health, vices, portfolio, which I guess we mix in with media company, and then skill. What would you say and I can go over them as well as far as what we think we've done well in each category. Again, this is just the midway checkpoint where we're assessing how things have been for the first half, and then we can do one more at the end where we right now have on screen. We're just playing the first video where we talked about everything that was going on and what we kind of expected. Here's the halfway checkpoint, and then we'll do one more at the end. But as far as those other aspects of expectations, how do you feel about them?
All right, so obviously I wasn't writing down while I was talking to you, so let me see. Budget. So, well, that's a 0 because, well, I'm going to give myself a 20 because I did manage to get the job. So, I mean, you can't really budget without money. So I'll give myself a 20 at least for getting the job. I think that's a fair, like, you gotta be 20 out of 100 isn't a great score, but it's a start for something. So I think now that I have it, and now that we start making more, I think, and I'll cut back on spending too. So we'll just leave that where it is. But I think we should definitely actually focus in and write a budget, and then we can put that in an episode. So I think we should definitely, even if it's crappy, I mean, we have something sort of set up. So I would say, So how about for you?
Yeah, for me, Budgeting, yeah, I'd say I guess probably a zero, just because it's like I didn't actually formally write out a budget, but I haven't really been spending any money, but that's also just because I haven't really been bringing too much in. The money I have brought in, albeit not that huge amount of not it's not a huge amount of money, but yeah, it's like small equipment purchases, which it's like we're trying to level up the production value, where it's like we at least have some dedicated lighting, dedicated microphones, things of that nature, and then we have like a backdrop and stuff come in, as well as a like a couple other little pieces of equipment, which should make this a much almost like a pleasure to listen to, more so than maybe a process at this point, which I know like at this point it's kind of felt like a process to record and not a pleasure. So it's like I can only imagine for the listening audience it probably feels like a chore to listen rather than it be a pleasure. And I think that's reflected on us, and I mean ultimately on me, because it's like, again, I just feel like it's coming down to myself to really monitor these things. But yeah, I guess in my mind a zero, maybe a 10 at best. But yeah, that'd be mine. Physical fitness.
What's that next one?
Physical fitness.
Oh. Maybe like a 25, 30. Got some workouts in. Wasn't. Oh. I'll say like a. I'll say like
you straight a little bit. I'm just trying to center us up here in this frame. You.
I'll go with a 30, I guess, because for the most part, I mean, we did kind of get, yeah, I'll just leave it at 30. You know what I mean? Food didn't get the diet in, but that kind of came with not having money, so there wasn't a whole lot we could do there till now, just getting to work and stuff. But I did get at least a couple. Did get some workouts in. Did have at least a week that was really good. So yeah, that's still not good, but it's there.
Yeah, wow.
And actually, yeah, 32, because a 30 is fine also, because I did manage to at least get outside and walk and run every day, something like that, So
yeah. No, and I'd say, at least for me, as far as like what I expected, I'd say like, yeah, I'm still closing all my rings on a daily basis, so it's like, I still get my 700 calories burned. It's like, whether it be me making sure at the end of the day I go on either a longer walk than I usually do, or, making sure I actually exercise throughout the day at some point. So I guess in a way it's like I haven't, my consistency with closing all my rings, for what that's worth, my exercise minutes, my stand minutes, my move minutes, it's like all those things I've continued to close. So it's like, in a way, I guess you could say that's 100%, but at the same time, it's like what I really wanted was to be working out, like lifting. So it's like, even though I might be doing some physical activity, I'd say it's not really what I kind of, I guess, imagine in my head. And so for that reason, I'd probably put it down to like maybe like a I have had some good workouts. I'd say maybe a 40. And I would say that parlays into the diet and health as well, where I feel like that's probably even lower, which would probably be around a 30. I had some protein shakes here and there, but I haven't been consistently eating. I've been consistently eating, 3,000 calories a day, 1.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight. I haven't been drinking a full gallon of water. So I've been drinking a half gallon of water. I've been probably drinking or eating like close to a gram of protein a day at best. But yeah, I'd say probably a 40 and a 30 respectively on those. And would you say that diet's the same for you, Eli?
Yeah, and also, like I said, we haven't the food aspect has been kind of off for diet, so I'm not as even to it, because we have to actually be bringing in enough to be able to go get the food and stuff. We were kind of in survival mode on food, so I'm not too deep on that one. But I will say, so an upside is we haven't been drinking, So that actually counts to me towards diet, because that can negate a lot of the work that you do. So you haven't been drinking, so I definitely put that as a plus. But I would say all the caffeine and other stuff is probably not helping at all. So yeah, I mean, I would just leave my number right where it's at. Keep me right at a 30, and just leave it right there.
What about vices?
Vices, I'm gonna go with 65. It's not 100%. It's not perfect. It's not exactly how I want it, but I'm actually fairly proud of myself in that category. You know what I mean? I haven't gotten everything how I wanted. Haven't locked everything up, but it's one thing where I see a very, very, very clear improvement. Like it's a very clear, very obvious improvement in that area. So I'll give that at least a 65. Which to me isn't bad if you consider that's the first half, because then that means I only got 35 more to go instead of like 50 more to go. I guess that's how I would see it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So the rest of them, we got like 30. We got to do 70% in 50% of the time. So I'll give that one an okay. How about you?
Well, yeah, no, and I'd say for me, it's probably like somewhere around like, even though there's been vices and things that like we've cut out or not been doing as regularly, I just feel like, at least for me, where it's like sometimes it like, I'd say probably like a 40, because there's been times where it's like we've done one thing that's ended up resulting in us doing another thing that like we didn't necessarily set out to do, and so it kind of creates this whole like slippery slope effect where it's like you mess up one thing on a vice and all of a sudden it's Vice City, where it's like you do one thing, you're like, yeah, well, I might as well just do this too, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, not working out, doing this, doing that, doing this, and all of a sudden it's like, dang. So yeah, even though in a way it's like 65 and 40 respectively isn't bad, but I'd also see it like is like, even though we've only done a first half, I'd see all these as like, just because they're 30 doesn't mean that like, or 65 or whatever the case is, like basically if we were not participating or doing anything the rest of the time, it's not like we could walk away and be like, yeah, well our budget was 20 or 0, because like at the end of the day then it would be half of 20 if we didn't do anything for the rest of the time. So in a way it's like, and vices are tricky because it's like all the progress you can, it's like when people slip into when they relapse, it's like, yeah, people might be going to AA for 15 years, or people might go to NA for like 10 years, all of a sudden they relapse, and like all that work is undone in such a way that it's like it wasn't any, it's like, yeah, it meant something to begin with, but does it really mean anything now? And so yeah, it's I think somewhere around 40%, where it's like I feel like we could be challenging ourselves more to maintain control of our vices, but again, I guess that's subjective, so not bad.
Yeah. And I also say definitely with vices. Well, I mean, I guess technically it depends on what you want for your end result. I'm not necessarily a like some vices I want to cut completely, but I'm not everything is just a total cut for me. Like at the end of my life, I'm still gonna, like, I'll still drink some, you know what I mean? Like, it's fine, you know what I'm saying? So it's not, but being able to completely cut it out and then go somewhere and not need it, and not, be like, oh, I don't gotta drink, I'm just chilling. And then go another time, like, I'll take a little sip, you know what I mean? That's the key. So, because to me, like, I mean, some people just cut it all the way and that's cool, but it's kind of like, then it's like one slip up and you fall completely off, compared to if you can without having that pressure again, you can be like, yeah, I'm good. Then I think that's when you have more of a control, because then you may just stop, but it's not like you're stopping because you feel a pressure that you need to. It's like you're stopping because you have total control, and it's like, I don't care, I don't need it. Like, I got other things I'm doing, you know?
Yeah.
And I also think it has an effect on where you started to where you're going, you know what I mean? So like, how bad were you before to now? And so,
yeah. What would you say? Like, would you say that you're in control of your vices? For me personally, I feel like I'm like okay at managing my vices, but at the same time, like, I know there's things where it's like I deal with peer pressure in a way where it's like I could be doing something really good, but then it's like I can kind of succumb to peer pressure. But at the same time, I feel like I'm very like rigid when it comes to like if I quit in something cold turkey, I can do that. Or it's like I guess like yeah, when there's moments where it's like if I'm out and I haven't drank in a couple weeks, and someone's like, hey man, can I buy you a drink or you want a beer? It's like I don't feel bad accepting them, but then I'm also like in times like these where it's like we're getting right. I feel like we shouldn't be drinking at all, and it's like I guess I feel like in my mind it's like if I say yes to something, it's like it's like yeah, I guess I just worry that in my mind if I say yes to something, do you feel like you'd be able to say no, or do you feel like you have like autonomy over your vices where it's like do your vices control you or do you control your vices? And I'm just saying for me, I feel like it's in the middle, but I feel like more often than not I do control my vices. I guess I would be interested to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Well, like I say, from where I started till now, I'm still. I would say no, not yet, but I'm still in the. No, I won't say no. That's an iffy one on that. I'm not sure, but I'll lean definitely towards no, but considering at one point not even trying to at all, and just considering being the one who was getting everybody, you know what I'm saying, I was lit, and having no interest and just figuring out when I'm going to and stuff. I just see enough improvement, or I won't say enough, but I see a lot of improvement at this point, and self-control. So I'm not, like I said, 65 because I'm not where I want to be, but I'm so much further than I was when I first got here. You know what I'm saying? And that's a key thing for me, and like just like even just the way just chilling at the house and stuff and not being like I gotta go get me some, or what, if I'm gonna do this, like sometimes with drinking it'd be like, oh, we gonna chill here, well I need a drink to do that, oh I'm gonna do this, so I need let me so I'm glad to, that's why I say I definitely feel just the improvement is significant, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And all right, and yeah, I'd say going on to, we'll go over portfolio just because that's part of the media company aspect. But then the next part would be skill. And for me, it's like I feel like I've gotten better when it comes to editing videos on iMovie. I feel like I have a better idea of framing, of lighting, of I guess like interactions to deal with when I'm dealing with people, as far as just approaching them. But then again, I'd say that I've always been pretty good at that, but just thinking as far as other skills, yeah, I'd say mostly it's been, as far as just iMovie related, kind of making scenes, kind of like figuring out that aspect is, I guess, some skills that I've kind of improved to some degree, but it's not been as much as I'd want. So I'd say that's probably like around the 20 out of 100 for me.
Don't forget the court reporting thing. So you developing that skill. I mean, it's not your main skill, but I think I would give you a little extra points for that because it's still something that allows you to make some money and stuff with it. I'd maybe say, like a 5 to maybe like a 10, just because I definitely, I've been working and getting better and back into using the camera and stuff. I really wanted to get in, and taking pictures and stuff, that's a skill that I think I've definitely gotten to work on. But I really want to get more into the lighting and editing. That's something I definitely want to improve on. But speaking and a little bit of being in front of the camera. So doing a little bit of that is why I put it right at a 10. So I really didn't focus on the skills, and I'm thinking about that now. Like when I said skills, it kind of hit me. I was like, oh man, I knew I had put that, because I had actually put that to the side specifically. I was like, I'm not gonna worry about that right off bat. Now I'm like, dang, I completely forgot that we were supposed to be focusing in on developing the skill. So I put like a 10, maybe 5%. Like it's low. So that's one I'm glad. Like I just wrote that out. Like I'm supposed to be more skilled before this is all said and done. So I mean, you only have to get a lot of questions into that. That's just I completely didn't do it like I was supposed to at all. Completely forgot that. But I think being in front of it and learning how to speak in a microphone and things like that are actually a new thing that I'm developing and stuff. So and being comfortable speaking on camera and not feeling so awkward in front of the camera.
Yeah. And I'd say some of the, I guess, intangibles, those are, I guess, all tangible things where it's like we can kind of look at those and determine whether or not we feel like we have concrete results to show those. But yeah, I'd say some of the intangibles would be like, which I guess we could just talk about as far as just teamwork, willpower, ideas. Let me think. Ideas, teamwork, willpower. Any other like intangibles you could think of?
Ideas, teamwork, willpower. We'll get back on that one.
Yeah, I'd say if anything, maybe.
That one,
Yeah, I'd say. Well, yeah. Okay, so here I got four basically. It was be willpower. Just the, I guess like the ability that you'd want to have like when it comes to executing certain things. When it's almost like when they say like true character is shown when nobody else is watching. It's like what everybody. It's like what you see when nobody else is watching. It's like what your true character is. I'd say that, and if anything, if it's easier, we could put that under willpower too. And you guys can always do these same things at home, like where it's like you take a look at, any part of your life and kind of like try and measure it out to some degree to make sense of it. And I guess in this case, yeah, willpower and character, where it's just like your ability just to see something through almost, or your ability to like focus in on something. And I guess a minute ago when I said, oh well, characters like what happens when nobody else is watching, and I guess the reason I relate that to willpower is like the other day, my sister. Well, yeah, I'll just say the other day, I had saw us, I had sorry to out my little sister, but yeah, basically, I had saw like a nicotine, like a puff bar, in my house, and I had saw it. No one was there, like around me. No one would have known if I would have hit it. And I was like looking at it for a second, and this was like a few days after I'd not smoked any nicotine or anything. And I was like, yeah, I kind of want to hit that. And I was like, nah, I was like, yeah, I could hit it, no one would know. But at the same time, like I personally would know. And to me, I'm like, that in itself, it's like when I'm walking the dog and like he poops and like no one's watching me if I clean it up or not. It's like, yeah, well, I don't know if it gets cleaned up or not. Or yeah, I don't know if I hit the puff bar or not. And so to me, that would be an example of like character or willpower. It's like, doing something or executing something that you don't necessarily need anybody to reinforce you to do. And then yeah, teamwork would be like working together. Ideas would be just presenting ideas or concepts or things that's kind of like, hey, we should consider this. And the last one was a little tricky, but it was like drive, ambition. It's like almost like your ability to just go through with stuff, I guess, where it's like there's a better word for that, but yeah, go ahead.
One thing I think with drive and ambition and even with willpower, and I think this is one of the mistakes that a lot of times we make is it's really, I mean, obviously that's there, but I think it comes from figuring out how to maintain your vision clearly, right, and your goal. Because if you're just trying to have willpower and drive and ambition, but you're just like ambitiously all over, all you do is get tired, So I think that's one, like, focus is really the word, focus. Because in order to have drive, in order to have ambition and stuff, you need to have your goal in front of you, so you know what you're building and working towards, and that kind of helps you, That kind of is what ties it all in together.
Yeah.
That's just the
Well,
thought that I had. So
we'll do teamwork, ideas, drive, ambition, willpower, and focus.
yeah, because that kind of bring what focus kind of ties everything. And by focus, I mean what is the main goal? What am I trying to achieve? What are we believing in? I think all of that is like the key to us being able to get everything. And the more I listen to people who are successful and stuff, they always talk about their why, their goal, their focus, and maintaining that as the top priority. So that way, and then yes, they still have the drive and the ambition and the discipline. You can put discipline if you want to, but all of that is still there. But it starts with knowing why you're doing it, knowing what you're going for. If you don't really know what you're going for, then it's just, it's just a lot of work, Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, and so I guess, in my mind, yeah, we can just go through these. Like, yeah, out of 100, I'd say for teamwork for me, I'd say like 65. And I know it's a little high, but I think it's because it would be, because we haven't been quite hitting everything. I'd say if anything, it's probably actually closer to like a 40. Because I was gonna say, like, we haven't really had much team success. It's almost been like individual success where it's like and this is my fault, but it's like, yeah, we weren't working out together. We haven't been editing together. We haven't really been doing anything together. So I'd say 40 is like best, but I guess that's open to interpretation too.
Yeah, teamwork. I think I would say we've done okay when we've actually had something like both of us win that together, but I don't think getting everything set up and making sure that we got it. So I'll put it more like a 20. That's where I think we would be at. So I guess you have that. What's that, 30? Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's actually probably a big portion of what is causing some of our problems and stuff. So, or some of the tougher parts that we've had. So yeah, I just put it at a 20 for now. Some of the things like when we went to gallery night and stuff, I thought we did pretty good. But even with that, it started off a little rough. But I thought we reeled that in and actually got that going pretty smooth. Yeah, so I'll just leave that at 20.
That's true. Yeah, and then next we have just ideas. I'd say for me, I'd say probably like around a 50. And I feel like I've come up with hundreds of ideas, but at the end of the day, they don't matter unless like they somewhat snap into existence or if they don't like come to fruition. So I'd say actually probably ideas have been somewhere around a 20, because in my mind it's like all the ideas I've had have either, it's like the podcast was like my main idea and like that wasn't a good idea. So it's like, yeah, I'd say 20. I'd say 20.
Yeah, I put it maybe like a 10. Just you have some ideas, but they have to happen, and then also just it kind of comes back with the teamwork thing and being able to articulate the ideas clearly. I think that's in like either being able to complete it or being able to explain it in a way that we can work together to figure out how to completely have some sort of plan based on the idea that's there and stuff. And like I even said before, I've felt a little bit dry when it comes to ideas and stuff. So I'll just put that as a 10. But I think it'll definitely be improved if we, with the teamwork also, if we work together on our ideas, even help each other, think through and brainstorm and how we can work together on these ideas and stuff. So
Yeah.
put that right at the 10.
What would you say for drive, ambition, willpower, discipline?
Drive, ambition. Good gosh. Okay, that's an interesting one. There's a lot of different pieces to that.
Or if you just want to do discipline, we can do discipline and ambition as separate?
No. It's not all the things. I'm just saying there's a lot that encompasses willpower, drive, ambition.
So I was
all
about
that.
saying we could separate them if we need to.
Oh yeah.
Here, let's just do ambition. And then we'll do discipline separately.
I can answer all of it. I would put them all at a 20. And I was gonna say, if I put everything together, I would just put it at a 20.
What would you say ambition is then?
Ambition. I really put it at about a 20. It's just right there at a 20. Yeah. Just yeah, just put that right at a 20 is fine, you know, because it's certain things and then it's not certain things, you know. Yeah.
What do you mean?
To,
what do you mean?
yeah.
Certain things, and not certain things. I guess.
Definitely ambitious about like when we're out and talking to people and more in the movement and stuff. Not as much with the act. I say being ambitious, but not really working in it and stuff. So not as much with like the getting the shows done, getting the podcast done and stuff, which has kind of been like the ideas thing and stuff. It's weird how it all kind of trickles in together. I'm just realizing it. So yeah, just we haven't gotten this stuff done. Had some ideas, wanted to do some stuff. Either some things we haven't been able to, some things we did get done. Like I say, just at least the working has been good. Yeah. That's what I don't know what else to really say about it. It's like a 20, some.
That's
Yeah.
straight. Okay, I was just when you said it was a little this, a little that, basically I was like, what does that mean? I guess.
Yeah, but you know what I meant. It was like, yeah, we didn't get the video. Some stuff didn't get done, like videos.
Yeah, and I'd say for me like, it hasn't been like a lack of ambition, at least for me, but I guess it's almost like ambition's only as good as like the ability to communicate that ambition with someone. And so yeah, I guess just because we have such a limited catalog of work and limited output, that I'd say my ambition I guess would be somewhere around like a 25 or 30. So I'll just put 25. But yeah, I'd say focus with the next one. For me, it's like I feel like I'm dialed in or focused like somewhere around like a 70%, but it's also difficult just because I feel like I'm focusing on so much. It's like where it's like I've been making like Instagram graphics on Adobe Express for Legacy Media Co. It's like I've been editing videos for eFly & Co. I've been trying to come up with content ideas for Legacy Media Co. I've been trying to facilitate, the events where we go and take pictures and things where it's like I try and throw out ideas like that and where we can go. And so yeah, I'd say my focus is somewhere around a 70, but it's I would like it to be at 100 obviously, but yeah, I feel like sometimes it's difficult. Yeah, I guess like a 70, and that's that's kind of like giving myself a little credit, but that's just because it's like at this point I've between this room that we're now in, the studio itself was like if I'll throw some overlays on the video of like what it looked like a couple weeks ago, but it's like I was able to turn this around in here, but at the same time it's like it doesn't really mean much if there's nothing to really come from it. So it's almost like we're just, in a way, I guess I find myself like thinking we're just finding something else to do rather than like the work itself. And so it's like, in this case it was like, we'll clean the room, but it's like, it didn't really translate anything this whole last week as far as what got done because of it. So I guess 70.
I'd say I put it probably like a 35. So when I know exactly, or when we have like a clear about what we're doing for something and stuff, and we're actually in it, I would think the focus has been pretty good. Kind of like starting and then almost I kind of have to do things with you. You know what I'm saying? Because it's your area, your stuff, your thing. So it's a little off trying to figure out. Okay, what can I just zero in on and go ahead? This is something that this is all me. You know. So
What would you say is like all? What would you think is like? I guess you oversee creatively.
yeah.
If
No,
someone, if,
yeah, that,
yeah,
that, no, that was kind of my point with the focus. Like, it's more of a, it's almost a problem of like, not knowing where, not being exactly sure where to aim my focus. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Like, and that's kind of, so that's why I put it where it's at. It's just, I'm almost kind of like, okay, like it's there. I just don't know where exactly. Okay, where do I aim it? And you know, and kind of trying to focus on little bits, like you were saying, not sure being sure where to aim my focus, not being sure where I can just sit. Okay, this is it. You know, boom, this is all me. I can do this. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I guess, and then we'll just wrap it. What would you say discipline is?
Boy, that's a, I'm just gonna have to put a number out there on that one. That's a tough one to pick. I'll put that at. I've been disciplined in some ways, not disciplined in other ways. I'll put it at 25, 30.
Mm. Yeah. And yeah, I'd say for me, it's like, yeah, I'm probably somewhere. Um, I'd say probably like maybe 60, but that's just because. Uh, yeah, it's like I'd say it could be. I'm the kind of person where it's like if someone's like, "Hey, Ethan, I need this done," or "Ethan, I need X, Y, and Z done," and I kind of like had this. I feel like I had this conclusion last night, and it to me, it's like, I guess it is what it is. But I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I just in some cases like this with the discipline where it's like, I'm like, yeah, if someone needs something from me, I'll get it done. Or if someone's like ask something of me or like expect something from me, it's like I usually make sure to try and go above and beyond their expectations because it's like I know that they'll not only remember that, but there's a good chance that other people will come across that experience and then they'll know about it as well and they'll know like my work or like my abilities. And so yeah, I'd say that even though I say I'm a 60, it's not because I've wanted. I think that the reason it's like I should be at 100 on all these, but I understand that like we're a team effort, and so I'm like, in a way, it's like yeah, I'm not gonna be saying that like oh my discipline's 100, because at the end of the day, it's like as kind of like the point person on this project, it's like yeah, I feel like ultimately it's my responsibility to convey or to like to transmit like the significance of certain things. So that's why a lot of these scores would be knocked down, but I guess in my mind, it's also like last night the realization I had, and I don't know, maybe it's like you might feel the same way, Eli, but I just feel like when it comes to like this whole experience, it's like yeah, I feel like I don't know, I just feel like I've kind of been like, you remember like the whole we didn't. Uh, there's basically like we talked about the other day, the driving Miss Daisy. It's like, I guess in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I just feel like where it's like if the situation was reversed and I was with you, I would want my numbers to be the numbers on the right, where it's like, I feel like you're the one who's like, if I'm the one who's lollygagging in a way, or like the one who's like has other stuff going on in my life, I wouldn't want it to be reflected like in my own personal assessment of our team effort. Like I guess like where it's like, if I was like with you, it's like I'd want my numbers to be higher, at least in a majority of the categories, if not all of them. But yeah, I guess that's ties into the thing a second ago where I'm like, well, what would you say is like it's like if someone's like, hey, Eli, you're part of the Get Right, what's your job? Like, how, I guess, would you respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, I'm not sure. That's kind of with the it's kind of what it is with the focus thing. I'm not sure exactly what my, like, what, I'm not exactly sure what it is, if that makes sense. Like, I know, okay, I'm gonna get in the podcast with you. I'm kind of supposed to do camera, but we don't even have that yet. And then, like, I guess I was supposed to do tech or to help with, setting things up and stuff. But it seemed like you wanted to do that. So I'm not really sure. It seemed like, I guess I'm just sort of like a backup guy or like the help guy or something.
But even when we were, that's like, well, when we were right here, if, like that's why, and I figured that too. I was like, oh, he'll be the backup guy, the help guy. But then it was like when we were right here the other day filming that podcast, it was like DJ and I had to ask him multiple times, like, hey, can you do this or do that? And like, I guess what I was mentioning the other night was like, if I was in your situation and someone was like needing help, it's like it's kind of like that thing in hospitality where it's like, I don't know if they told you at the hotel, but like usually there's like this golden rule of hospitality. It's like anticipate a guest's need before and like solve their issue before they even ask. So it's like when an example being when you see someone's drink low at a restaurant, it's like you know that they're gonna ask for a refill depending on where they are in the meal. But it's like you know there's a good chance they're gonna ask for a refill, especially if it's like in the first course or what have you. So it's almost like you either bring them another drink in anticipation of them needing a refill, or you ask them preemptively. You don't wait until they're low on ice and then all of a sudden they have their cup at the end of the table and then they have to even ask you specifically like, hey, can you refill that drink? You want to anticipate it when it's like a third of the way down and then you bring out a new one. So it's like at no point in time do they even have like, it's like, oh, I didn't even think about how I'm about to need another drink and you already brought me one. So I guess in my mind that would be me anticipating guest needs, in which case I feel like yes, it was like in that day with the podcast, it's like I feel like you weren't anticipating needs. So it's like, yeah, you, in a way, it's like, yes, being a backup guy is good. And it's like, I wanted you to be the tech guy because it's like, there's a lot of things I'd want you to do, but it's like, I don't want to over extend you or like over stretch you to the point where it's like, you can't handle that workload or that like commitment. And so, yeah, it's like, I guess to that point, it's like, I didn't really feel like you were the backup guy in that case. And so, yeah, I guess, and the bigger issue is like, even if you don't know what your role is or what your job is, do you not feel like that would have been a good thing to flesh out like on that first planning day, roughly 22 days ago now or so? Like do you not feel like, I guess if people ask, like, don't you want to be able to tell them like a specific role or a job or, and I know that you mentioned the thing about not having the technology, which I get that's an issue, but even like, I guess an example of that, I know that you mentioned the camera thing. It's the other day when I was, because I've now ordered replacement batteries for that camera, and I know it's not your camera, but I thought it was interesting that you didn't know what model the camera even was. And I know that it's not your camera again, but do you not, I guess, like, the tech guy, shouldn't he know what kind of our main camera is? I don't know. It's just a thought.
I mean, yeah, I knew what it was. I knew how to use it. I just didn't know the exact brand of the camera that we hadn't used since like the first 2 days we were here, and I had almost we had almost forgot about it at one point. Like, cause dude, we never got the gear for it. So I mean, literally, if you asked me, oh, what kind of camera is, I would have literally just been like, oh, and check the box and be like, oh yeah, it's a T1i. Like, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, all right. Fair enough. I still think it should have been hardwired and ingrained into you, been like T1i, bam, boom. But it's like, yeah. Then I guess, okay. So not, we'll take that off. But then would you say, like, because I asked you to send me some recommendations for cameras, for equipment, for all this stuff, and it's like, yes, you can look that up on your phone. So do you feel like that it all has been, and it's just me wondering out loud again. It's like, because I feel like I'm the one who did the research for the lights, for the stands, for the all the gear. It's like the camera being your one thing where it's like I would trust your opinion. I trust your opinion on anything, but it's like, yeah, it would. I guess like, yeah, what would be the reason for not showing more? I guess on the tech side.
Nah, I mean, it was your money and your stuff. We had what we needed at first, so I mean, you just started getting lights and stuff, and I was like, okay, that's cool. Like, like you didn't say, hey, let's get some more lights. Here's some money for them. You know what I mean? So I just, like, you was just ordering stuff, and I was like, okay, I guess he's getting more stuff now. Like, the camera, we was like, oh, that's $600-700. He was like, oh, okay, we won't do that now. We're gonna use the camera we have.
Yeah, but you remember, I guess it was on Thursday night when I was like, just send me some recommendations. So it's like, I have them and like, I can pull the money together. Like, most likely, it's like if we,
Yeah, but then we said we were getting the the batteries instead. Remember, because you was getting in touch
I,
with old boy.
I know. I did get the batteries. I'm just saying like,
Yeah.
well, okay, all right, okay. Well, I guess in my mind, okay. So, what would you say? And again, I'm just trying to think of this out loud because it's like I'm trying to figure out where you would operate best. So it's like I know, okay, well, I can handle these departments if Eli can just handle this. Where would you say that you're best suited to be, in this sort of production?
I mean, I was just thinking I would be, like, I would have been able to set this up if you if you had like told me, all right, this is the gear, like this is what I want and stuff. Like you can, even if you leave, like it's your equipment, so I'm not gonna start downloading things and stuff like that in it. But it's like, okay, cool, yeah, I can set up the cameras, I can get all the lights together, I can set up the room, I can get all this stuff together. Like, I was cool to do it. It's just it seems like it's your space and kind of your stuff, so you tend to either want it or like to have like the control over it or something. So I just kind of I fell back on it, but that's what I thought. I thought I'd be able to set all this stuff up. I thought we kind of brainstormed the ideas together of what we was gonna do, and it's like cool. And I can be a voice. I can work in front of camera, in front or behind camera. Like or like for instance, when we were headed to when we went to that place that you used to live the other day, I figured you would have kind of communicated that before we head out. So then I would have been like, okay, cool. So I'll get this gear. We're going to be by what place? Okay, cool. Let me get these lights and stuff to go with it. Instead of like, okay, yeah, I'm going here. And then I hop in the car there. Like, okay, I want to record this. Okay, snap. Like, here, let me jump on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was kind of more what I expected to be doing and stuff with it.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah. Like yesterday, when I was setting up this studio, it's like I told you on Thursday too, because you're like, I want to be involved and help set up the studio. And I told you at the beginning of the day, I was like, well, I'm literally between now and Tuesday, like the studio is gonna be set up. So just by all means, like I was like, I'm not against you helping me or designing the layout or anything like that. But it was like yesterday for like the 3 or 4 hours I was rearranging the room, you weren't upstairs necessarily. So it's like, is it wrong for me to ask for your help? Like, am I asking too much? It's like I don't like asking for help because I'm one of those people where it's like I'm very like self-sustaining, almost like, so it's a tricky spot for me.
I came in the room like I don't know how many times and asked you, and you were like you were doing it, you were handling it. That's all you said. Like when I like you gotta be very just like you gotta just say like because again when I'm not in a place that I'm it's not my stuff in my house. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not gonna start touching and arranging things. And even like before when I wanted to do the room, like you kind of told me you needed to do it because this was your stuff in your area and like how your mom would be and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing you asked me to do was take out the trash, which I did. But like I walked around and asked a couple times, like you know what I mean, like what if you else. And then like I say after that I started writing stuff and doing other things that I thought might be relevant and trying to come up with an idea on what I could speak on, which I still had a hard time figuring out. But
Yeah, I got you. And yeah, it's like I guess when I was saying that, like, yeah, I asked for your help, it's like, yes. What's similar to the other day when we were podcasting, it's like, yeah, I didn't need your help at that exact moment, but it's almost like, just sit in the room, just stay, just don't be on your phone, don't like, it's almost like, in a way, it's like if we were doing this podcast, right, say you're the point person running point on this operation, like on this pod, and I'm just like laughing at something on my phone and I have an AirPod in, would you not feel like off put by my lack of, I guess, interest or buy-in on the podcast itself? Where it's like the other day when you were on your phone laughing at stuff and DJ and I were like kind of turning around to see what was so funny, and we see you're paying attention to something on your phone. It's like, do you not like? I guess what would make you think that looks like something to the general public? Like, oh yeah, I want to help out with you guys because like it as opposed to just sitting there kind of like intently watching, where it's like that's your primary focus and not a secondary or auxiliary focus.
I mean, I'm not gonna just sit for 3 hours and not do anything. I tried to do something else that might actually be helpful, which was at the time, which was trying to find something to discuss and put in a podcast.
All right, what was it? Yeah, what was it?
What do you mean?
Like, what was the 3 hours of brainstorming? What was the conclusion?
I was YouTube videos. I didn't come up with anything great. I did the Stephen A. one that I tried to do. Remember with Malika Andrews? A couple of attempts that aren't really coming out together. And I had a few other ideas, mostly in like the sports realm is what I came up with. So I did
Yeah.
fresh and fit videos and stuff. But like I said, I haven't been getting great ideas or anything that like I feel confident to speak about. But again, like I was like, I'm here if you need me. Like I came in and tried to be like, I'm
Well,
here
I
if
did
you
need you.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah, and I don't want you to think like, oh, I'm just gonna sit and do nothing for 3 hours. It's like, no, it should be exciting to you that like, oh no, I'm gonna sit and watch our first podcast go live and it being recorded. Like this is a truly exciting experience because when this media company is huge and when we have, all this like, it's like all these kind of like a catalog, a history, like some sort of track record of everything. We'll look back and appreciate the times where we are my mom's game room upstairs filming a podcast. Like that's the way I would view it. I wouldn't view it as nothing or like I'm not just gonna sit and do nothing for 3 hours because it's almost like a bad outlook to have on the whole process in general, which I think kind of parlays into the whole, oh well, I don't consider this work. It's like I get it, even though I thought we were doing 40 hours of work, 40 hours of media company. And it's like, would you say you've put in 40 hours a week of media company? Because we did agree to that.
No.
How many hours would you say?
I'm not sure.
Like, if you had to speculate a guess.
I don't know. It varies by week. Maybe like 20.
All right. Well, yes. I guess in my mind, I made a point the other day on the podcast. So you guys haven't heard it because we ended up not being able to use that. But I made the point of if there's two of me and two of you, who would be getting more done? And you had said, oh, well, two of you. And so it's like, in which context would you, if you were me, pick you? It's like where in your mind is it like, oh yeah, I'm a strong candidate on this, or I'm a good person to be involved with the Get Right. I'm a good person for people to look up to or like to be participating in this process because of.
Nowhere. I wouldn't go into things like this on in front of everyone, but
It's,
for like more private conversations.
we've had this conversation privately. We've had this conversation privately, and this is just between us. At this point, it's like, don't worry about the cameras, don't worry about anything, because at the end of the day, it's like, we're supposed to be honest with ourselves. So it shouldn't matter if there's a camera here, if there's a million people watching, if there's 0 people watching. It's like in my mind, it should be the exact same answer because if you start falsifying responses based on the amount of people watching or paying attention, then it's disingenuous in itself. It's not authentic. So it's like, regardless if there's 0 people watching, 100,000 million, gajillion people watching it, it truly, in my mind, shouldn't even make a difference. But it's like I'm genuinely wondering because it's like the other night when you said I was Venom by throwing shade at you. It's like that hurt my feelings because I'm like, well, maybe I feel like you not participating is Venom too. And so it's like, I would never say that, but it's like it hurt my feelings that moment when you said that because it's like, okay, well that sucks. And then it's like for you to say later like, oh, I don't really see this as work. And it's like, okay, well that sucks. And it's like last night when I was like, hey man, surprise, like, like it would have been cool to actually do like an all-nighter, I was up till 4 or something in here. And it's like, and then I was back up at 10, which was, I figured you would have been up by that point, but it's like, it's okay that you weren't. But I'm just like, man, it sucks, like, because it's like, this is all I got. Like, it's all on the line for me. So it's like, remember how we were talking about 60 days, all or nothing? It's like, hey, at the end of 60 days, if this shit doesn't work out, we're going to get in desk jobs. It's like, I didn't want to do that. And it's like, I'm now being faced with the reality that I might have to do that. And I truly, truly believe it's not as much my fault as like I might perceive it to be, but I'm like trying to justify in my head where it's like, I mean, sure, at the end of the day, it's 100% my fault, but I'm just wondering like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Now, so your question is, like I'm listening, but I didn't. What were you asking exactly? I didn't understand. Like,
Yeah, I guess what in your mind makes you a good person to have on the get right? Like it's like because I was thinking about it last night. It's like, and this isn't to be rude or anything. I'm just thinking like think about it in just terms like take yourself out of it and take myself out of it. Take the get right out of it. Just like look at any sort of situation where it's like, situation. It's not even named. It's just situation. And then it's person A and person B. And then it's like if you want to write down every single thing that person A has, what would person B have? Or if person B had everything, what would person A have? And so it's like in my mind, it's like I guess I'm trying to understand why person B or person A. It's like it doesn't matter which, it doesn't matter. I'm just wondering in my head like because obviously I'm missing something here. So it's like I want to understand because there must be something that's like, you know, because ultimately it's like why would anyone want person B around if person A can do everything person B does, but person A, it's like this person basically does everything person B does, but person A could hit up person C or person D or person E. It's like what would be the justification in your mind that like you honestly if you were in my position or in person A's position or anything, it's like what would be in your mind like a justification for you know doing this as a team because it's like at this point I've now in a way like almost like turned down a job offer. There was a good paying job offer as a field organizer on a political campaign in another state because I wanted to try and do this media company. And it's like I with each like level of like justification it becomes harder and harder and more to carry. Like, Atlas Shrugged, it's like I feel like I'm carrying the world on my shoulders here. And I'm just trying to understand like what exactly because I figured like to give you an example, I figured when Eli comes here, he'll be the camera guy, he'll be the eye, through his eye the world will see the get right, which was like in my mind a really valuable thing to have around. But then it's like I knew you didn't have a camera, and that's fine, and I knew that I guess in my mind like I figured that you getting a camera would be more central or you just like paying more attention, I guess, to camera. I don't know. I guess in my mind, I'm just trying to. Well, I wanted you to kind of elaborate as far as like on this get right process. It's like what makes you an asset to the team and not a liability.
I mean, if that's how it is for now, then that's for now. Then that's it. I mean, I've said what I can do and stuff before, but I mean, it's yeah. I mean, if that's I feel whatever for
Well,
it, then
I'm just
I mean,
wondering,
I don't
do
know.
you feel differently?
Um,
Like honestly, it's not. It's like me honestly asking. He's like your teammate. I'm just like, because it's like I still want to be your friend, and it's like obviously we'll be friends, but it's like at a certain point, it's almost like by you leading me on as a teammate, it's like it's upsetting me to the point where it's like now this is bleeding into like friendship game where it's like, okay, like we might not be the best teammates. That's cool. Like he's still a cool dude, but now it just seems like in a way it's almost like being deceptive where I'm like, okay, this is not cool anymore, and so I'm wondering like I'm trying to justify in my head and like maybe I'm looking at the fucking elephant too close where it's like I can't see the full scope of things. So I'm asking you to help me understand it where it's like give me the ability to justify or rationalize.
it's I just have for me. It's just I haven't really been exactly sure. I guess maybe I'm not because maybe I haven't been exactly sure what you know where to like fit in with what I do, if that makes sense. Like I haven't felt like I never really known where to fit in, where does mine sort of, where did my help sort of come up when I thought it did, it wasn't really, or when I thought it was supposed to, it was like, oh no, you can kind of do it yourself. And like you say, with your like the laptop camera is kind of yours, or the phone for the camera is kind of yours. So, I mean, I guess maybe not. Like maybe this wasn't the best time to do it, or maybe it wasn't the best thing this moment. Maybe maybe I needed to come with my own gear and stuff, so that way I could not need your, not have to always go through you to be able to get anything going or started, and like.
Do you feel, and would you say though that you feel like do you think there's any jobs or tasks that you can do that, like, what would you say, like, just say if I didn't have a laptop, you know, two laptops, a phone, like whatever the case is, like, because it's like, yeah, it's like the only reason I have that Windows laptop was just because it's like I needed that for work, and it was only a couple $100 when I bought it a few years back, so I've got my money's worth. And the reason I don't like anyone using my Mac just because of they're just overpriced to begin with, but it's like it's a delicate piece of technology where if something breaks, it's like, oh, that's 400 or 500 out on top of like an already huge price tag. And so yeah, it's not anything against you. It's almost just like a personal, you know, preference thing. It's like the same thing with phones. Anyone will agree that it's like it's off-putting to have your phone being used by someone else for extended periods of times where it's like you want your phone with you. But I guess yeah, it's like in my mind, what would you say you could do, or like how if I didn't have the ability or the resources to have the technology, is there anything that you feel like you could do without me participating? It's like, what could you do, or what can you bring to the table without my oversight? Like, where is like in what area? Because it's like I mentioned the other night in the podcast that it's like, yeah, in my mind it's like, okay, there's filmmaking, public speaking, editing, planning. It's like all these things are almost like their own individual tiers or categories where it's like you could be graded individually, like where it's like anyone can be graded individually on that criteria. But I feel like for each of those criteria, it's like if I'm not above in all of them, it's like I'm not only above in all of them, but I'm like leagues above in some cases. So I'm wondering, like, this is just me wondering out loud, and I understand that maybe it wasn't the right time, and maybe it was stupid of me to like think it was, but like this is still just me trying to make sense of it. Where it's like, you know, what categories or what departments would you say you're better at than me, or you have a better understanding of the skill or the concept, or where would you say that, you know, it's like, oh, this is the thing I do without Eli. Like, what can you do on a day-to-day basis without any input from me, where it's like you could still be doing stuff? Like, what would you say that would be, or either of those questions?
Honestly, everything that I do, I need the equipment and all that type of stuff. I'd have to have like autonomy with it. So there's nothing then, I guess. I mean, that's just the honest thing, because it would have to be an autonomy. Like, I have to be able to just have the camera and just go, or like the lights and stuff. That's what I do. Setting scenes out, you know, with like when you see people in the streets, oh, we're getting videos and pictures. Like that's what I do. That's what I'm good at. So I don't. I mean, so like even with editing is not necessarily my skill. It's a skill that I'm developing and learning. Like, I did enough to pass editing. I didn't. I didn't really dive into it, you know. And like, I mean, if we have subjects and ideas, I can kind of help. I can help write like skits and things like that with it. I can, if we have you know, stories you want to tell, I can piece all that together. I can piece together a story with cameras and film. But that's what I do is with all this stuff. Like, I sit behind and I put on like, oh, I can light you so you look just right on this when we get started for this evening. Like, I can set up the room for it so you get some depth and so it looks nice and stuff. But again, it kind of takes all autonomy and time.
But with the podcast the other day, that didn't happen.
Yeah, with the you didn't want my help. That's
I did. We did. There was with
did
two different
after,
occasions.
After like, but
I didn't need you on camera. Is the thing. That I didn't need, because it's like I felt like there would be so much backstory you wouldn't have been aware of as far as DJ and I's history around Marvel, and so it's like, yeah, I guess I'm just, when you say like, oh, I could have helped set scenes or I could have done this or that, it's like, well, in that case, when I needed you to help set a scene, you're like, oh, well, I'm not just gonna sit around, you know. And it's like, all right.
As soon as y'all was like, because even before that, I asked you like 4 times about camera, and you kept telling me, nah, you weren't gonna do it. Nah, it didn't matter. Nah, it didn't matter. That's when I hopped in my phone and was like, all right, well, I'm gonna do something that's like besides just sitting here. That's what happened. That's when I started. Then when you said you wanted it, that's when I started trying to block out the lights. That's when I was like, hey, the little game thing would be perfect here, because that would fill the space and it fits with the game room, and then blah blah blah. Like, that was when I started throwing all these different ideas, and I was like, let's move this stuff out of here so it's not as junky in the back. And that's when I started trying to set the camera. and you were mad that it took me a while, but I didn't know he was using these mugs, and I never used them before. So I figured out how to control them and get them set and stuff. But that was just, I mean, once I was like, okay, cool, he needs my help with something now. I jumped on it and started doing it. And that's when I accidentally popped back up in because I went to grab my jacket downstairs and I got an idea at the last second. I was like, ooh, I can grab the things to cover the windows because the windows was getting on my nerves. And that's when I grabbed it and ran back up to finish it. But when I knew, like, okay, I saw what you wanted done.
And yeah, you
saw
came
what
in
you
when we
needed
were
done.
recording too.
But I saw what you needed done. I saw what we wanted done. And I tried to start moving to get it set up. And then, like I said, I came up when y'all was recording. The door was wide open. I didn't even know y'all had started yet. And I had, like I said, I told y'all, I was like, I'm cold and grab my jacket real quick. That's what I was like, I'm cold and grab my coat. Ran down to get it, and I was like, oh, wait. I was about to come out. I was like, oh, wait. I got the gels to cover the windows, and I ran into the car, and I was like, that'll be even better. And then I came back up. I know y'all had started back up. But, and it, like I said, door wasn't closed and no warning or nothing. I had just popped up thinking we was still getting stuff started and fired up. And I was moving quick because I knew we wanted to start quick, so I didn't. So, yes, I did move quick and loud because I was trying to move in as quick as possible. So, but I'm saying that's it. So then the answer is nothing without that stuff. That's what I do.
Yeah. Well, I guess yeah, and again, it's just me just thinking out loud. It's like, yeah, obviously it's understandable that like you won't be able to do certain things without access to the technology, but yeah, then it's like I guess times where it was like, you know, when I wrote out all those questions as far as the political questions, it was like I wrote like probably 40 on paper before I ever even typed anything. And then like times like where it's like I look on Amazon at products and like, you know, where I was like, hey man, we should get a green screen. They're like, yeah, I don't know if we need to spend money on that. And I was like, okay. And then it was like, you know, I guess in a way it's almost like what gear. It's like there's some gear that we do need where it's like, yeah, a backdrop would be nice. So it's like, yeah, obviously get one of those, like booms, nice. But it's like, yeah, I guess in my mind I'm just like, what, you know, it's like, yeah, it's like with the camera thing, it's like I understand. I just feel like it's like, it's, yeah, it is quite literally a toolbox fallacy when you're like, I can't do anything without you, Ethan. And I'm like, well, why are we doing the get right together if it's just Ethan getting right? And then it's like, you know, basically me just telling you to do something, but then you don't even do it anyway. You know, it's like, fuck. So I don't know. I guess I'm just like, it sucks to hear that you can't do a single possible thing without me. It's almost like you have to go through me for any sort of productiveness or anything. Where it's like, I've asked you about the thumbnails, I've asked you to look up stuff, I've asked you, and it's like, yeah, these things, like, you know, it's like, yeah, I guess there's a reason for each of them, but it's like, yeah, I guess in my mind, if I was at your house and then I had these numbers on your stat line and you had my numbers, and then it was like, would you not feel like you're doing a lot for me and I'm not really doing that much? Or like, am I crazy in thinking that? And I mean that honestly, like, because I feel like I'm doing a lot and I bring a lot to the table. It's like you literally just even said that you can't even do a single thing unless I'm involved in it. So it's like in some way I'm literally involved in everything. But like, wouldn't you be upset if like I was staying with you and I was just like kind of like, yeah, well I gotta get to work, or like, man, I gotta eat, or like, yeah, I gotta do this, and like we don't even like ever work out together. We don't do like, there's no actual getting right together. And so it's like in my mind I'm just like, you know, in like, I guess one, would you not be upset? And then two, it's like, in which case would you honestly pick yourself to work with over me? It's like, what would make you pick Eli if you were just a random person? In which case would you want to work with yourself over myself? Is there any department where it's like you feel like you excel to some degree?
I mean, I guess not. So, I mean, yeah, I guess not. So, you
Why do you think not?
bruh, I mean, it's just, we have,
I'm not just asking. It's just like between you and I. It's like two dudes who, like, this is, and the reason I mention this is because it's like, and regardless if anyone ever sees this or not, it's like, this is really just for the
I don't want them.
yeah, it's like, what I mean, whatever the case is, it like doesn't even matter at this point, because it's like anyone at this point, like the whole facade's completely shattered. Like people know that like we're, you know, just basically phonies. But it's like, I guess in my mind, I'm like, I'm also trying to come to terms with like, hey, here is what happens when you and someone, like when myself and someone, or random viewer and someone, or anyone and someone else go into something, and it's like in this case, it's like I've lost buddies who had talked about doing similar stuff with me, where it's like, oh, like let's start a podcast, Ethan, and in my mind, I'm like, okay, but it's like I've never approached anyone and said like, hey, let's start a podcast. In this case, you wanted to do the Get Right, and it's like I'm fine with doing the Get Right because ultimately I think that there is value to our experiences. I think there's value to our lessons of life that not only we can learn from each other, but the world at large could learn from us, whether it be present day or future generations. Who knows? But I think there are valuable lessons, and that's why I wanted to do it. But I guess now I'm wondering, to you and to the people that aren't even around anymore, and the people like that have just said to other people, hey, let's start a podcast, was that something that you really wanted to do, or like what would be, I guess in your view, like why would you want to do the podcast, or like what makes you think about that?
I mean, I wanted to do it. I wanted to build a portfolio and stuff. I wanted to do some work together. I thought I didn't necessarily have a plan on exactly what I wanted with the company and all that, and then I didn't have but I thought, when it came to all of this, maybe you would have the software in your computer, obviously, but then I just thought I would have autonomy to reissue me here, like you had ideas of what you wanted, and I was just gonna help you get it, help you, maybe you would come to me before, and then I'd help you figure out how we would set it up and stuff together. Like even with your political questions, like you went and kind of wrote yours, and you told me to write some questions, but I thought we would have just like sat together and wrote out a bunch of them together, because like I can, that's kind of more what I expected.
Well, yeah, and like I said on that podcast, so whenever I'm involved with group work, it's like I always end up just naturally, people like look at me like, well, what do you think, Ethan? And I'm like, I don't mind being the leader of stuff. Like in this case, I feel like I'm the leader, but it's like,
plus, I mean, you are right. It was your idea, so you are the leader of it. But it's like that. Okay, so and when I do group work with people, like, okay, so like I get it. You really want to work out. It's kind of weird. Like you really want to work out together. But I'm like, if anything, I would have thought we would have developed all our topics and ideas and all those together. But you'll be like, you just go and start writing yours and tell me to go write them. And I'm like, I don't really have
because the time,
I thought we would have like sat together. And
that's like when we're working out. It's like, hey man, it'd be a good idea. Hey, what, bro?
When I'm working out, I
was
like, I thought we would write it and actually break it down.
Well, like, but yeah, I guess it's like in a way, it's like the get right.
I just kind of pop up when you go, and it's like I gotta try and like, okay, like even when we went out the other day, I tried to offer to do something with the camera. As soon as I do, if I don't know exactly what you want right away, you actually start catching attitude.
But what? How do you mean?
Like I got the camera and I'm trying to figure out, and you're like, well, don't do it that way. I thought you went to I did it like, well,
because you had the camera looking out the window.
You did that from the beginning, like every time.
The first time I said that, hey, didn't you go to film school? Which was like, that'd be like me asking something about like a Republican candidate and be like, what about that Democrat? And you'd be like,
yeah, degree in political science. I don't use a phone in like live shoot videos, and I'm getting it, and I'm like, okay, let me figure out what I'm gonna do with it and stuff. Or like we're going, like it's like, okay, we're going to this event. Boom, I'm popping up with you. I'm there. I'm trying to catch on and get a flow of what you got going on, like this your city, what are the plans you have and stuff. But it's just it's like I gotta figure it out right away. It's gonna, you know what I mean? Like there's no, and like I say, if we like, even with you were asking me to write, to help with the questions and ideas. And then you're like, that's a half-baked idea. And I was like, well, I'm trying. That's why I'm coming home. But I'm like, part of the reason I'm coming to you and I'm asking is because, hey, we're doing this together. Mm-hmm. We could help each other figure out ideas and stuff like that. Like, working out together is like the minimal thing to me. I don't even think we need to. I don't want to work out together because I don't want to work on the damn cement. I want to work on the mat you got. Yeah. So I like having the space to do it, and I like not having to change the weights. I like working out. Unless I'm in a gym where there's so much gear and equipment that it's easy to work with someone, I'd rather do it myself. But I'm like, but the other thing that I actually wanted to do together, like I wanted to develop our ideas together. I wanted to plan out You saying, okay, we're gonna go to these are the events. I see. Okay, yeah, let's see. All right, I got some. How do you think about this event? Oh, I think like working together on it, and then that also helps me catch on to what you want to do. And you're like, just go do this, and I'm like, okay, I guess this is what you want, and I just start grabbing a few things.
But
I don't.
what would be some examples of things I asked you to do by yourself, and how did it go?
What did you ask me to do by myself? You asked me to. What was the thing you had just said? What was it? You had just said it a second ago. I just don't remember what it was that you said. Oh, yeah, you asked me to get the cameras, which I told you that was a while back, but I told you that was like I did, and I told you that was like the cheapest one I could find was 700. I think that's what I said. I had it. That was weeks ago.
But yeah, I never saw it.
Wait. And then do it, and then I talked to you about it, and we were like, we'll just wait, and we had said that we would just wait.
But what was like the camera? What was the camera model? What
you can pull it back up.
Yeah, but is it a thing that you should also just know is like, is the tech guy or the camera guy? It's like, it's like, hey, like what's the next frontier in my department? Okay, cameras, the viewing aspect. It's like almost like in a heartbeat. It's like if someone's like, hey, what do you need? If you had the money right now for your next level piece of equipment, what would it be? Like, and you should be like, bam, Panasonic 450X2, with the fucking with the mirrorless aperture, or like where it's like boom, boom. It's like people were like, okay, respect, because it's almost it looks like you're so like diligent and so like laser focused that it's like you already know exactly what you need next because you've already like visualized it. You're already there. So it's like in a way you're just going through the motions. But in this case, when it's like you're like, oh, I don't know. It's like, well, yeah. It's like, can you even actually ever get the item? You don't know what it is. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if we don't even know what we're going for, how are we ever gonna get it?
I mean, I know a camera that I want for the next level camera, and then I'll have to pull it up again. I have it saved already. I had it saved for a long time. It's like a $1,200 camera, but it comes with all the gear and everything that I want. It's 4K, and it's one that I've worked with, and so that's the camera that I wanted to use and that I want to get. But that to me is like that's not really relevant to now because right now I'm like, let's just use what we have is okay to shoot. So I was like I just, like that. I was like, the camera you have, fine. I just was like, okay, forget that for now. Like that was not unimportant. There's no reason to be spending that much money right now.
Oh, exactly.
Stuff. So
well, yeah, I guess
like
when I asked you to look at the cameras, how much research do you do time wise between like me actually asking you in this moment?
We were talking about the second time that you asked me.
Yeah, or for all together, I guess would be fine.
I have no idea. I have literally no idea. From before I got here when I ended up telling you about the prices, because I remember you were trying to pull up the camcorders and I was like, nah, I already looked at those are no good.
Yeah,
I was like the lighting and stuff on those.
Well, all the messages though before you got here were like me just sending a bunch of stuff, no responses. So so from the time you got here, when I was like, hey, like last Thursday, it's like you and I had asked you like, just send me some stuff just so I feel like there's some like concrete like, hey, Eli's doing this because like, look, he researched this. These are the points he made. How much time since then, or how much time since when you got here? I guess.
We decided to just get the batteries for the camera we had. That was what I said to you too. I was like, bro, we don't need a new camera. I was like, we just need the batteries for the one that we already have, and we use the phone, and we'll be straight for now.
Okay, so if you weren't looking up the all right. Well, yeah, I guess if you weren't looking up the camera or doing any research on that front, then what have you been doing these last couple of days? Because, yeah, I guess that part.
Trying to come up with something for a podcast that I can talk about. And that's basically what I've been trying to figure out. Writing out a few podcast scripts. That was my and going to work.
Yeah. And do you feel like you've dedicated that much time to it? I guess it's like when you say like I'm trying to come up with podcast ideas, it's like, well, how long does that really take? And like, couldn't we just come up with that almost in about 4 seconds? Like, it's like so fast. Like it's almost like you could do a podcast about picking out the gear. It's like, that's what I don't get sometimes. I feel like I'm better at making up ideas and coming up with ideas, like the short story thing, where you're like, yeah, I'm gonna write a short story, a little bit of my short story every day. And it's like, I couldn't even get you to commit to one word on it. And it's like, I understood that you were saying that like you wanted it done by the end of the get right, But it's like, yeah, I guess in this case, it's like, yeah, yeah, I guess it's just in my mind. It's like, yeah, would you feel disrespected at all if you were putting up the numbers that you're putting up? If I was putting the numbers you're putting up in a situation where it was reversed, where it's like, I told you, or you told me to come along, and I was just basically like, I'm just like, well, I can't do anything without you, Eli. It's like, would you not feel like a little slighted in some regard?
Um, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess so. I would have probably, I mean, different approaches on how I would have gone about it, but I guess so.
How would you, how would you have gone about it?
Well, like for the ideas, for instance, or the questions and all those things, I would have just, like you, I would have just been like, all right, yo, you want to brainstorm this stuff, like, and let's start writing some out. Or like, I would have been like, yo, so I got these new lights and cameras and stuff. I want to do the podcast in here. You know, you want to try and see if you know, how you would want to light it and set it up so we can get it going. Or like stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that way, and then also, like I said, that gives an autonomy and a freedom to feel like you can just jump in and actually go to work on what you want to do. And like, I wouldn't have been so vague in what I was saying.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess, and yeah, it's not necessarily like an issue being vague. It's just, yeah, in my mind, um, yeah, it's like, yeah, I guess it just sucks because it's like I'm kind of, I feel like at this point, it's like, you know, we got like 30 days left, and it's like, I just feel like, at least for me, when I kind of went into this, I expected like a couple videos a week, podcast every day, social media post every day. I figured we'd just be, you know, hammering and jammering, but it's like, yeah, I guess it's like I feel like nothing has really been done, and it's like in this case, it's like situations where it's like I feel like I'm just like kind of like, I don't know. It's like I feel like I facilitate everything, and it's like, yeah, I understand that I guess that I have to be involved in everything, but then it's like, I guess in a way, like I would be worried if I was in your situation where it's almost like I feel bad to the point where it's like, I'm like, man, like Ethan's got to be involved in every single thing I do. Like, I'm really, if I wasn't here, or if I, you know, was putting in as much as work as he was, we would really be hitting strides. But because like, and it's like, yeah, I get it that like, you know, we decided to use my phone. It's like, okay, we decide, and that's why I wish we would have been podcasting every night to like keep tabs on all this. But it's like, yeah, even if we use all my stuff every day, it's like, yeah, even just writing down the questions that you'd want to ask people. It's like, you know, last night when I was like, yeah, let's just, you know, grind. It's like, you know, you don't work tomorrow. And it's like, you're like, well, I'm tired. And it's like, I get it, but, and I understand that you had work. But it's like, yeah, it seems like between getting a job and then it's like, yeah, just getting a job and basically eating well. It's like those were like the two main focuses, I feel like. And it wasn't like, you know, the media company or like any sort of like digital creationism. It's more just like, okay, let me go to work, let me make sure I get the food I need to eat, and then like if I have any energy left over, I'll put in what I can. But it's like, it just sucks because it's like now it's like, I guess, yeah, it is all 100% my fault because it's like if there's nothing like that you can do on your own, it's just like, yeah, maybe I should have just been like, hey, Eli, I should have just asked more questions, I guess, from the beginning and be like, hey, Eli, like, what could you do on your own where you feel like you'd be a benefit to the Get Right, like, team or the Get Right, like, mindset where it's, I guess, in some regard, you know, you feel like you've participated because it's, I don't know, I just feel like I'm pulling you along, but it's like it causes strife where it's like, I feel like you feel like I'm trying to make you do stuff when in reality it's like I figured you just want to do this stuff.
Nah, I feel like this. Nah, I feel like I can't do really. I kind of feel like I can't do anything really that helpful and beneficial at this point. That's kind of what it is. Like, you know, getting the like even just okay, I have the camera and then I'll be able to set up lights. Hey, I got this set up down here. Like, you know, oh, you said we're going to this part time. Okay, cool. Let me grab stuff. So I don't feel like I just feel like I'm not really, I'm kind of like unsure of what I should be doing to help at times. So, I mean, but I say, bro, if you, like you say, if you need to take the job in Charlotte, whatever, I'll make, like I said, where I can make arrangements.
Yeah, it just
but I
sucks.
gotta handle it to do it. That wasn't the intention or nothing. It's just like I said, I definitely thought it would be a little more of a understanding of what we had planned for, and then I thought I'd have more like autonomy and like access to, like, you know, kind of like creative visual control. That's more what I thought. Like, you know, maybe like, okay, you had a podcast for this to talk about, and I was like, all right, cool. Let me get these lights and stuff set up. Okay, we can put this here. Like, that's what I expected, and I didn't. And like I said, I expected autonomy with that. I expected to just be able to go ahead, or like the gear to have total access, so I can just go grab it and use it when I need to, or whatever. I've got an idea or something, like, or like, you know.
But
like,
you,
for instance, that's your laptop, so I have to, like, you'll need it a lot, or like you'll be doing stuff. So I'm like, all right, and I try not to bother you about your stuff, so I try not to be like constantly bugging about it. So I was just like, all right, let me see, what else can I do, like. And like sometimes you be like, I'm cooking. I'm like, that's just cause I figured, well, if he don't have nothing that we trying to do now, I may as well try and get this done now. That way I don't need to do it later on. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, I mean, it sucks. I wanted it. Like I said, if anything, it probably needs to be where I have my own stuff in gear and you had your own, and then, you know, something to be more, like I say, autonomy, and not having to work through what you have and what you got set up and stuff.
yeah.
And not needing permission.
Oh yeah.
To do things.
That's fine. And I guess my, I guess that, and I understand it sucks that like having the shared equipment aspect. I understand that does create issues, and yeah, part of me is like, yeah, that makes sense, and then part of me is also like, well, if you had access to all the equipment, if everything was at your disposal, would it make any difference? And then it's like, in my head, I think like maybe, but then also in my head, I'm like, if it was two of you, what do you think would have gotten done? Say you had all the equipment, and say you had everything you needed, but just say it was two of you, and what would be different as far as like what you would have gotten done as opposed to the more or less nothing we have done now?
I'm not sure the whole concepting and stuff. I really didn't have like a exact concept or idea when I got here. So that you would definitely have to, I guess I had to figure out a concept or something. And yeah, and then well, not in Pensacola, but I'd say like, okay, if I was where I stayed, like Atlanta or whatever, then I would have just tried to book gigs and stuff with other things for work, but it wouldn't have built the media company the same way because that's not exactly my forte.
You're good. No, I just heard this. But yeah, I mean, to me, I'm like,
forte, so I'm more so when I do. Yeah, that's not my forte. So it would have definitely just been a totally different. I would have just done something very, very different in how I would have approached, and what I would have gone about doing. So
yeah. Oh, and that
basically Atlanta too. That's how I was before. Well, no, when I was getting my camera for all that other mess happened, like I had a totally different plan of attack, but your idea, I was like, okay, cool. Let me just, I'm a boy. I'll see how this goes, but it didn't work out that way. So
what'd you expect? I guess what'd you expect like a day-to-day thing to be like?
I thought you had like events and stuff planned for us to go to, and I thought we was gonna be like popping up and getting interviews. I thought I was gonna be doing them, and then maybe I thought we might be podcasting a few people cycle after that.
Yeah, and those
then,
were all
like,
things that I'd mentioned.
and
It's
then
just
like, and then I was gonna be like, okay, we're gonna record it, and then maybe be like, all right, I'm gonna get this guest coming, da da da. You know, you got, all right, we booking the guest. I'm like, okay,
exactly.
cool, boom, this guest. All right, you got your questions, boom. I'm gonna get them in the thing, and I'm gonna have it set so we can go. And like, all right, I'm already lighting for the person, like, and I got your chairs and everything set for the interview. Like you setting it up.
DJ.
That's what I thought. Yeah, but then with you, but when I came in and asked, and I'm thinking that you don't like, it seemed like you
Because even
you
right
have a
now,
very
I shouldn't have. I
do-it-yourself
should.
way.
Well, yeah, but
about
I shouldn't have
things
to
in
tell
life.
you. It's like almost like yes, I understand what you're saying, but it's almost like just the desire to want to help or the desire to want to be involved should, basically it's like even if in this case it's like even if you weren't, if you felt like you weren't participating in that specifically, it's like I guess yeah, in my mind it's like you could still be participating in it, like even though we might have said something, because it feels like, in this case it's like, well, you told me not to help, so there's nothing I could do. It's like just because there's nothing that you can do in an exact moment doesn't mean that there won't be something that comes up like there was. But it's also like, I guess just in my mind it's like I wish it, like I didn't even like I wish. Yeah, because it's like if I tell you basically no 1 second, it's like all of a sudden it's like, oh well, no, that's not gonna work, and so yeah, I guess it's just it's like
If you, that's another thing. If I tell some, and that's just the way I communicate. If I tell somebody I don't need the help for something, then I realize I can, I'm gonna go back to them and be like, hey, guess what? Could you help me with this actually? And that's it.
That's what we
literally
did.
all it- Yeah, and then I started helping y'all with.
But you weren't even
after.
listening though.
Yeah, but I'm saying is, so I'll get their attention because I'll think in my mind, I'm the one who told them I didn't need their help.
But
So
if they get right
I'm the
in
one
this
that-
whole media company's you're a part owner of, shouldn't you just be invested even if like?
it was your podcast and show, so I started working on other stuff. Remember, we had a plan. We were talking about I was gonna we were trying to see what I was gonna podcast after. So I was like, okay, I was just trying to get myself.
So there,
prepped.
I have
I
like
was
stuff
planning
that's
for
my
the-
own, and then you have stuff that's mine
No,
as well.
I
But you
was-
don't have anything that's your own.
I was trying to get something together for the later part and stuff, and that was it. Like I said, I was trying to help you out. I was like, okay, cool. At least maybe I can get some content for us to talk to, so we can get something out later. And that's just what I switched my focus to.
Yeah.
And then when you brought me back into like, hey, I actually wanted you on this, I went, boom, okay, stop this, went on and hopped on and started helping you set up. things
Well,
and
yeah.
stuff.
Well, it's like when the
Instead.
camera fell over and whatnot, or when we were trying to unplug the camera, when we were like asking if it looked good on framing, those sort of things. But yes, I guess if that podcast was mine, and yes, you could have done like a podcast or like even a video about like, hey, behind the scenes, this is how you should light your podcast, or this is how setting up a podcast for beginners might look like. Just something to like almost give you like something to do while it's just like you're documenting an experience that is going on. It's almost like, hey, this is behind the scenes of this. This is what me as the tech guy or the technology guy here, like this is like what I try to set up. And it's like you'd have B-roll footage rolling within, but it's like at the same time it's fine. But it's like, yes, if that is my own podcast where it's like you're not at all involved with that, because I thought everything in 60 days was to get right. But it's like, okay, if that's not part of your expectations or responsibilities and that's not your job, then what is your own thing that you oversee? Because if I have stuff I oversee, then you should have stuff you oversee. And it's like, then in the middle we'd have stuff that we oversee like as a joint, initiative.
I don't know. I guess, I mean, I can do some podcasts that I want, like definitely would be sports and stuff is something that I'll really get into, but I mean, it didn't, like I said, it just didn't go how I was planning. He didn't end up really working together on stuff that I thought I was gonna do at first. We didn't really do or get into, so it was, I mean, it's what it is at this point. I'm just like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It sucks, but I don't know. But yeah.
Well, I was like, yeah, with like, pressure washing the house or pressure washing the other day, it was like, I understood you want to go get your walk in, but it's like that. It's like there's experiences and like abilities to like as like a team where it's like you have moments that you're with your team. It's like when you're in a team, with a company, or when you're in a group of people with an organization, and then all you guys go bowling one night, and it's like something kind of unrelated. It's still, you're doing something that requires something out of you. In this case, like the energy to go bowling, the ability or the desire to hang out with people outside of a workplace, and to differentiate the two things. But like that's why they're called team building exercises. And so, in a way, even though like we be working out, and it's like I get it that like we're having to do something. It's like not like we're still having to stay engaged. It's still something we're having to show up for. But it's like in my mind, I figured that like those sort of team building exercises are what's nice, because otherwise we just find ourselves on the podcast and that's it. And it's like when when we get on the podcast, oh well, I don't have time. Like we didn't go over anything else, and it's like, okay, well, why didn't we? Oh well, I was busy working out, or I was busy at work, and it's like, okay, well we don't. Why don't we work out together? Okay, I guess there's a reason. Well, we don't work at the same place. Oh, okay, that makes sense. But then it's like, yeah, it's like everything. It's like if we have no outside time to kick it, well, how are we gonna like? It's like I don't want to sit down and brainstorm ideas. It's just like a soul activity, because it's like I feel like the brainstorming ideas should come naturally from when we're out in the field doing what it is that we're trying to get right in our lives.
But if you want to have, yeah, and then that's where you get what you call the half-baked ideas. That's where those come from. But when we sit together and actually plan it out, that's when we get you're like, okay, the steps thing. I'm like, I'm not.
Well, you were by yourself when you ran up.
Yeah,
that was a half-baked idea.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that's why
you were by yourself.
That's why I was saying that's why I wanted to do. Well, okay, I wanted to work on our ideas together and actually sit and do them. You didn't want to do that together. You wanted to work out together.
But we could do the ideas while we're working out.
And then we did. No, not that. But that's not the. I wanted to actually write them, like the part you're talking about, the plans, and actually figuring out what we're doing to talk to the podcast and writing it. I think we would actually sit and take a time to do that, and then we could actually podcast it after. But we had a different way of doing that. That's cool. That's how. Yeah, that's just how it ended up. So
and that's fine.
That's just different things. I guess either not communicating, or maybe both hard-headed and have our own ways about doing things. I mean that's just it is. That's how it is. It's how it went down.
I feel you. Yeah, and yeah, I guess it is what it is at this point. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, it's just a shitty thing where it's like, yeah, I guess at the end of the day, I should have I should have been more forthcoming with like, expectations, or just like anything as far as like, a time commitment, mental commitment. That's on me for not, making that clear, I guess. And so it is what it is. Yeah, I just someone who's like, how did this month go wrong?
Yeah, I was gonna say it definitely was kind of like, definitely was a little off from what I had expected, but it's not like in like a complete. It was a little different and off, and I tried to adjust and didn't, and yeah. So I mean, it's honestly, I'm just. What time is it now? I'm starving. And we've been at this mug for a long time. It's like 2:00. We're supposed to be gone.
Oh God, it's already 2. Alright, well yeah, we'll wrap this up. But yeah, if anything, I guess like the question that it will ask yourselves that will break on is, anything, we're good. If anything, it's straight.